What's up, Internet? Cyberpunk 2077 and Tomb Raider are facing delays.
And Assassin's Creed is coming to Netflix.
My name's David Webb.
I'm Ariel Edwards.
We get nerdy nightly.
And we thought we'd share it with you.
No!
It's not working. There's no sound. Hey, we got there in the end.
It was supposed to be so cool.
I know, it's because the TV is just cuts off the sources just a little bit. So, you know, we're working it out. We're fine tuning it, y'all.
We're growing. We're improving. You can edit out the delay. No, we'll keep the delay in. It's hilarious.
It's, comedy.
Welcome to another morning show, the nightly morning show here on twitch.tv/nerdynightly. Thank you so much for joining us. If you're live, if you're not live, we do stream this show every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern on Twitch. And you can watch it later if you miss part of the show or if you miss an episode on YouTube, or you can download it wherever podcasts are downloaded. We're talking Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Breaker. That's the one I should mention first because that's where most of our listeners actually download it. Yeah, I was looking at our analytics on Anchor.
Oh yeah.
Yesterday, and it's very interesting.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, there's some person in the Isle of Man, which is a country I know nothing about, who has downloaded every episode of our podcast, and I think is a big fan,
wow.
which is fun.
That's nice.
So to that one person in the Isle of Man, reach out. How did you find us? Say hi.
Yeah, I would love to know. That's amazing.
So we are here to talk about the nerdy news, because that's what we do on the show. Mm-hmm. And we have a lot of news today. Yeah,
a lot of stuff happened. It was funny, yesterday we were there wasn't a ton of news. And then today it's all the news.
Well, and a lot of this dropped yesterday just because of when we filmed this. It's here's the thing about doing a show at 10 a.m. Eastern. All of the news drops at 11 a.m. Eastern. Yeah, it's true. We just miss it. It's fine. We're working with it here. What should we start with? Well, you know what? Let's start with the title this time. We didn't start with the title yesterday, so let's switch things up.
Switch it up. I love it.
And because I want to get into this. Cyberpunk 2077, a video game by CD Projekt Red, the company that made Witcher 3 Wild Hunt and the other Witcher games. Witcher 3 is one of my favorite games of all time.
I know a lot of our people are fans of it as well. And I've just started dabbling in it. Great game if you haven't tried it.
Their long-awaited sequel game, weirdly, the Cyberpunk 2077 is I believe technically a sequel to Cyberpunk, the role-playing game. It's like a D&D tabletop game. First. And so Cyberpunk 2077 is the continuation of that world, which is very cool to me. The fact that it started with a dice and pen and paper game.
Yeah.
But the long-awaited Cyberpunk 2077 has been delayed a third time. It was originally supposed to come out in April of this year, and then September, and then and then November, and now December 10th is our new date. Yeah.
Yeah. And people are not happy.
No, they're not.
Yeah. I mean, first of all, we are sad. You know, it's unfortunate.
I'm actually not.
Well, I was kind of thinking about this because if we're not getting a PlayStation right away.
Well, no, I would actually buy Cyberpunk probably on the computer.
On the computer.
But here was what me and my chat discovered yesterday. I am very excited for 2 games this fall. I'm very excited to play Valhalla and Cyberpunk 2077. Yeah. And originally they were supposed to come out. Or not originally. Originally, they were supposed to be out for months now, and I should have already beaten them. But the dates that we were holding to for the next gen release, this November date, I believe it was the 15th and the 17th. Those 2 dates are 2 days apart.
Yeah. Yeah.
Those dates are 2 days apart.
Which means that you have to choose.
And they are both 100-hour games.
Yeah.
I did not have a way to play through these games if they were 2 days apart. So the movement of Cyberpunk actually opens things up for me.
Yeah, now you can focus on Valhalla.
Yeah, I can jump. Y'all, my Twitch stream is going to be Vikings, Vikings for a little bit after that game comes out, because Assassin's Creed Odyssey stole my life from me.
Yeah, I did not see David for like days at a time.
I'm amazed, considering Assassin's Creed Odyssey, that you and I got married.
Wow. Okay. All right.
I'm amazed you stayed with me through my deep obsession with that game.
I mean, you've been here through Subnautica, so.
Yeah, but that was after we got married. Like, I don't have a choice.
That's true.
If that had been pre-marriage, who knows what would have happened. I think.
All right. I know.
For me, I think that it moving actually really opens up my schedule to really put time into Valhalla, which by all accounts is going to come out on its first day.
Yep.
And
as
then
far as we know.
Put my time into Cyberpunk at a later date.
Yep. Yeah. No, I think for us, it actually works out kind of nicely, which is good. However, a lot of people are very upset about this. So much so that there have been death threats sent out, which is like... I don't even know what to say about that, because it just... I'm like, what is wrong with you? Like, don't... Like, who you... First of all... Why? What's the point of that? Does it make you feel better? Okay. I might consider then talking to a therapist about it, as opposed to sending a death threat to somebody who's definitely not really gonna bother with it.
Well, and my favorite part about it is that they're like, all right, y'all, we're pushing back 3 weeks.
Yeah, it's not even like 6 months. It's like 3 weeks. Like, you're gonna get your game. It's going to be okay. Like
okay, but before we go too far down that road, the argument that people are making is that it is now so close to the release date that like there are people who are like, I booked my vacation week at work for this week because I was so excited to spend my time on this game.
Right.
And for people in that specific position, you know what? I do feel bad for you a little bit. You know what I mean? Like, I get that that's tough. You look forward to this for 3 years of development.
Yeah.
You're really, really excited. The trailers are incredible. You know what I mean? Like, they've sold the game so well. I'm so excited for this game. That, like, if you were like, I'm going to put 100 hours into this game in 1 week because my job is something where I can't typically play video games very much and I won't get to immerse myself in it, I understand being upset. I do. I actually really understand that.
Yeah. Yeah.
The line between being upset and
death threats.
Threatening to kill someone who probably didn't make this choice, right? Like
100%. Like, this is not their... Like, they weren't just like, you know what? Let's just push it back. You know what I mean?
But like, even the people who did make the choice to push it back are probably not the person that you're sending the death threats to.
No.
Like, you're sending the death threats to, like, the lead animator, and the lead animator isn't the guy sitting there going, guys, you know what? I know that every other part of the game works, but this tree doesn't look good, so we're not... It can't happen. I'm sorry. Like...
Yeah, it's I really don't think there's anything that can, like, condone a death threat to somebody, and, like, it's a game. I understand, you know, like, I would be upset. I would be upset if I had taken time off work and I was like, this is how I'm going to spend my vacation. And, like, you know what? All the power to you. If that's what you know is going to make you happy, freaking go for it. But, like, you can't threaten to kill people.
Well, then it just goes to this, like, weird idea that people... It's two things, right? Like, I think that death threats on the internet don't seem as real to the person making the threat as they do to the person receiving it.
Absolutely.
And I think that because of the screen in front of you when you make that death threat, not that I would know. I've literally never threatened death on anything. Yeah. Other than, like, some flies and a couple of wasps. And I followed through on those threats. But
wow.
Kazkill32 says if you're typing it, it's not real. I think people really feel that way, where they're like, they're just showing a different level of anger, and they don't see that it is very real for the person receiving that. Yeah. Also, on the flip side of that, the person receiving that isn't going to be like, oh wait, they're going to threaten to kill me, so I'm going to put out a game that doesn't work. Yeah, they're not going to change their mind.
No, the death threat is not going to achieve anything except except make someone probably feel bad or scared or like have a negative reaction to getting that threat. Like you're not making a difference. You know what I mean? It's not going to achieve anything. Which is why I said, maybe that's something that makes you feel better, in which case I suggest you talk to somebody about that, because that is not healthy.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, if you send people death threats over video game release windows, you cross the line. And here's the thing, you lose the moral high ground here, right? Because I think that there is an argument to be made from gamers who feel like CD Projekt Red has kind of lied a lot about the release of this game.
Right.
Like, we were told that we didn't have to worry about crunch, that the developers of this game were not going to have crunch demands placed upon them,
right.
which gamers are genuinely starting to be concerned about. People don't want to support companies that take advantage of their staffs.
Yep.
So, gamers were told that. Then we were told that the developers were going to be forced to take crunch time. Now, 3 weeks before release, we're told that the game's pushing back because it's not ready. Yeah. Even though 3 weeks ago, they said that the game was gold, that it was done, that it was good to, like... You know what I mean?
It's that dang tree they're trying to fix.
Yeah. And so it just, like, if you were on Twitter right now being like, hey, like, there's some shady business stuff going on with this game, and I don't like it as someone who wants to like this game, I think that you have a really good argument. Like,
Absolutely.
If you're pissed about this, that's fine. Be pissed. Be upset. Write a mean tweet. Don't threaten to kill someone. Like, it's when you take it from, hey, this company of thousands of people has done this thing that their business practice is something I don't like, and you take that and you boil it down to, there is one person here, and I'm going to threaten to murder one person, that you've lost sight of why you're mad.
Yeah. And like you said, like, you have grounds and steam to kind of go off of, but as soon as you cross that line, it's all discredited. Unfortunately, like, you can't, like, people won't take it as seriously now. They'll be like, oh, people are just overreacting because death threats are an overreaction.
I agree with
but
that.
Yeah, like, the reasons behind people being upset are totally valid. And I actually learned, we were talking about a few weeks ago, what crunch was. Like, I did not realize that was a thing. Like, that was just a gaming thing that, like, right before the game comes out, you're expected to, like, work 24 hours a day. Whatever it is. Like, work overtime, and you kind of don't really have that choice. And, I was like...
It is funny to me, though. The idea of crunch has always been funny to me, because to me it doesn't seem like a bad thing, because my brain is so used to Tech Week that I'm like, wait, no, yeah, right before you open, you work 12-hour days. Yeah. And
yeah. As actors, we are used to being abused.
but like, the acting world is, we work 6 days a week.
Yeah.
Like, when you're in rehearsal for a show, and even after the show opens, like, we have a 6-day-a-week job. We don't get a 2-day weekend. And so it is funny sometimes when people complain about their jobs, that I'm like, wait, you're complaining about, like, Monday to Friday. And I'm like, what about Tuesday to Sunday? We have such a different world as far as, like, our working hours.
Yeah, so we have a bit of a, like, skewed perception of it. But, for someone who is like, I want to work that consistent schedule, like, that's... I mean, and you know what? Maybe you go into the gaming industry and that's going to be expected of you, and that's fine. It was just something that I didn't know about, that kind of everybody just does. And I had no idea. So that was kind of interesting. So I was like, oh, I don't love that. And, the fact that Cyberpunk said that that's not going to happen, and now it is happening, is kind of shady. And so,
so my point is, there have been legitimate reasons to be upset about the process behind this game. It's just targeting individual people that I feel is the problem.
Yeah. These threats don't do anything. They don't achieve anything. Yeah.
It just shows how toxic gaming culture can be.
Yeah.
Actually, you know what? No, I take that back. All cultures are like
Internet
this, though,
culture.
right? Because, movies get pushed back and people get death threats. Television shows push back episodes, people get death threats. Like, it just seems like if people are told that they're going to get something, and then they have to wait a little bit longer for it, they lose their minds.
Yeah. It's why when you are working as a host at a restaurant and someone asks what the wait for the table is going to be, you overestimate. Because if they leave, then it doesn't matter. Someone else is going to come in and take that table. Yeah. But if you say it's going to be 30 minutes...
And it's 35.
It's 35 minutes, and they're like, you said 30 minutes! And you're like, oh my god, I'm so sorry. Like, you always overestimate with that kind of thing, because people lose their minds over, 5 minutes of their time.
I got in trouble with a manager at a restaurant one time, because... I was at a table and he was walking behind me, and the table asked me how long it took to cook this chicken dish, and I overestimated by 7 minutes, right? Okay. I was like, oh, it's like 32 minutes. It's a 25-minute dish, and I know that it's a 25-minute dish. And he pulled me aside. He's like, David, why would you tell them it's longer than it is? And I was like, because it's going to come out in 25 minutes. No, this kitchen. It was going to come out in 25 minutes, and I bring it over in 25 minutes instead of 32. And I'm like, I push the kitchen. I know you guys have a show. They managed to push this one out for you. Yeah. Bigger tip every time.
Yeah. No, people love that.
You tell them it's going to take longer, and then when it comes out early, you get love for that.
Yeah, 100%. Which, a little bit shady, but I love you.
No, it's not. Because, if there's a fire in the kitchen and shit gets pushed back...
It's true. It'll be 32 minutes.
It'll be 32 minutes. You know what I mean?
You're not wrong.
You kind of have to...
But I've definitely done that as a hostess as well. Mm-hmm. You know what? I was able to squeeze you guys in at this table. I just cleaned it up myself. And they're like, oh, thank you. And you're like, yeah, I got you.
I love that I'm getting some hype in the chat for lying for tips. I'm going to tell you this right now, everyone. If you have ever... tipped a server better because of something they said, it was probably a lie.
Yeah, I went and talked to the kitchen, and I had them
I went and talked to the kitchen is my favorite lie.
You don't talk to the kitchen. For those of you in the chat who have never worked at restaurants, they are run a specific way. And
oh my god. Mm-hmm. The number of times I've walked up to tables and just straight up started to say things. Just nonsense.
Not surprised at all.
Yeah, Chef and I just had a really long conversation in the middle of the busiest part of the night when he definitely has time
100%.
To have a one-on-one chat with me about your one meal. Mm. There's 380 people sitting in the restaurant right now, but I took the chef aside to have a conversation with him right now.
Yeah. Although it is funny, there are things that I kind of... It's one of those weird... Okay, say for example, you're serving a table and they're like, wow, this dish is so great. Make sure that you tell the kitchen what a great job they did or whatever. And it's 7:30 and the kitchen's sweating and pumping out food. I'm not gonna go over and be like, hey chef, table 33 over there, I know you're busy, but I just want to let you know that they really loved the food and you're doing a great job. Chef would be like, get the fuck out of my kitchen.
I'm not going to lie to you. I have never once told the kitchen that a table liked the food.
No, me neither. Unless it's dead. If it's 3:30 in the afternoon, there's nobody in the restaurant, and I'm like, hey, table 33, I loved it. Whatever, Then, because the kitchen, they're standing there, they're waiting for the next order.
Well,
that's about it.
But also, if I walked into the kitchen and I was like, hey chef, table 30 really wanted me to say they loved the steak, the chef would be like,
of course they fucking love the steak.
Great. Everybody loves the steak. It's why we're busy. Why are you telling me this?
Yeah. Of course it's good, obviously. Unfortunately, we've broken Hammy's trust between him and his waiters.
Phoenix says, I love when servers take credit for doing things the kitchen produced. Here's the thing, Phoenix. And look, this is one of the true tensions. I know this is becoming kitchen talk with
kitchen talk on the morning show.
The waiter show. There's a real world. There's a real battle, right, between kitchens and waiters in restaurants. Mm-hmm. It's a fun battle to be a part of. You're fighting with the kitchen, they're fighting with you, everyone's mad at everyone, and then
it's a kind of toxic relationship.
At the end of the night, everyone gets drunk. It is a toxic relationship. But waiters are the front-facing part of the company, and I will say a lot of kitchen don't understand that we have to lie to them because we are not representing ourselves when we're at the table. We're representing the restaurant. Yeah. So anything we're saying we produced that the kitchen produced, we are saying the kitchen produced it. We're just the face that has been ascribed to the kitchen.
Yeah.
Because it's the only person they see.
Yeah.
On the flip side, the manager isn't the restaurant. The manager is daddy. And so like the waiter represents the kitchen and the restaurant, and the manager represents daddy. And you have to have those two things in order to like successfully navigate Karens. That's the end of the sentence.
That's fair. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the thing is like, I often find that like the kitchen and like the front of house and back of house fights are like, I don't understand the kitchen job at all, and they don't really understand the front of house job at all. And it's just, you just kind of have to agree that you're all gonna do your separate thing, and you're gonna fight, but you're gonna make it work.
There is nothing I would love to see more than to see my chef try and be a waiter.
Oh my god. Yeah. Just don't call the chef daddy. Yeah, don't do that.
I worked in an Italian restaurant. I won't say which one, because the executive chef is still the executive chef there. But he was Irish. He was a very tall, giant Irish man who could not pronounce a single Italian word. And so we had like pastas on the menu that are all like these Italian words. And he just wouldn't even try. Like we had a chicken dish that was we had a sausage dish that was just like an Italian sausage, and he'd be like, "Hey, give me that chorizo." And I literally couldn't be in the kitchen because I would just listen to him talk, and I would stand in the corner like hysterically crying laughter. Fire lemon.
I love that.
Best chef I've ever worked for. Truly the best chef in all of New York City, but the funniest, the kindest, funniest human on the planet. I love that
we went from Cyberpunk 2077 to Restaurant 101.
Well, it's interesting, right? Because like when you think about it, they're service industries.
Yeah.
And so, Cyberpunk 2077 is a video game. Let's get back to nerdy news, y'all. That's what the show's about. Cyberpunk 2077 is in the service industry of providing an experience. And it's not different from restaurant work. So I'm not surprised that like when we see these developers dealing with this, our lens for understanding what they're going through is that the service industry aspects that we've done. Yeah. Which is, so we're drawing parallels between those two things because, I've been in the position where I've had a woman like holding a knife up screaming at me in a restaurant. And it's like, ma'am, I'm sorry they put capers on your chicken. Like, I wrote on the thing, no capers. They did it anyway. They're making 97,000 chickens. I'll get you another chicken. It takes 2 minutes. Like, whatever. It's just tough. Yeah. But, and Cyberpunk is in the same kind of service industry. Yes. But they're in it for probably 15 million. I'm willing to bet they're going to launch with 15 million copies sold. Yeah. Ish. Between the 5 consoles.
It's like restaurant work on a much larger scale.
Yeah. And so, you're just dealing with more Karens.
Yeah.
Essentially. Not that stereotype of humanity is playing Cyberpunk 2077. They would be very triggered by when you boot the game up and they're like, yes, which of these 2 penises would you like your character to have?
I cannot wait.
But there's only one vagina. It's bullshit.
Yeah, that's straight up lie. I'm sorry. They look different, y'all. I'm just saying.
How do you know?
Get out of here.
All right, let's move on. We've talked this one. Yeah. For 23
that was
minutes.
Good chat.
Man. The other thing that got delayed was the sequel to the latest. I need to not watch this in my office. Probably, Mela. Probably. The sequel to the latest Tomb Raider movie, the one starring Alicia Vikander, who my wife looks like. I think you look like her.
Sure, I'll take it.
The newest... Sorry, the sequel to that movie has been officially delayed. This coming just a couple of days after the director of that movie, Ben Wheatley, said that the movie was dealing with COVID issues. And so it's interesting to see we have another property that is trying to figure out how to make its movie.
In a pandemic, yeah.
And I know we've talked about pandemic affecting production a lot on the show, but I did want to talk about this one because it's interesting for a film like Tomb Raider that can't... you can't really film a Tomb Raider movie in a studio, right? You can't film it in a location. It's the kind of film that needs to be like, you need to go places and you need to go to different places.
Yeah.
And it made me think about Spider-Man starting production, which we talked about yesterday or 2 days ago. 2 days ago. A Spider-Man movie typically films in a bunch of locations. It has to move around. You have to move your crew around. And I wonder if these films that we're seeing right now are going to struggle to tell stories the way that we have in the recent filmography. Yeah. Because you're kind of locked to a single position, a single location.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay.
I don't know. I'm sorry.
I think it's interesting, right? Because, Spider-Man is filming in Atlanta right now. Spider-Man 3 is. Yeah. And you have to imagine that some of this movie is going to be filmed in New York. It's a Spider-Man movie.
Yeah, yeah.
They're not going to film it all on sets. You're going to want some New York shots. But the process of moving the production to New York, with quarantines and,
It's a lot more complicated now.
100%, yeah.
Yeah. And I wouldn't even know where to start with what those procedures would be with something like this. I mean, I'm sure that they have, they have a team of people working on it. Yeah. But, you would have to coordinate either, private travel for everybody that's already, in the bubble, or you would have to all quarantine for 2 weeks before you could even start filming again. It's just, that sounds like a nightmare. And so I'd be interested to know what those guidelines are. But yeah, for something like Tomb Raider that has to shoot all over the place. Yeah. I really honestly can't even imagine the kind of struggles that they're dealing with. I feel like I would only be able to scratch the surface.
Yeah. And here's the thing, even if you were to travel everyone together, you still, because you're crossing those state lines, you would still have to quarantine when you get to New York. So you're adding, it adds 2 weeks of your entire cast and crew being stuck in hotels. Yeah. And, you really do, especially with a Spider-Man movie, you need crowds, you need extras. A Spider-Man movie without people in the background would feel like an independent film. A lot of people talk about independent films when they're they clearly didn't have very much money, and you can tell because they don't have extras. Yeah. And that's the first indication when watching a film that's under a $5 million budget that you're they're... that same 5 people are behind both characters on either side. Yeah. They're just wearing different clothes. Yeah. It's a way to, you just can't afford to have a bunch of people on set. Whereas, I worked on both Amazing Spider-Man movies when I was living in New York as an extra. And there was a night we shot overnight in Midtown, just running from the Lizard. And there were 450 people on set. Yeah. And when we were in holding, which is for when you're working on a movie set, typically the stars have a trailer, but for anyone who doesn't have a trailer, there's usually a room somewhere that they call holding where you stay between shoots. Yeah. And when you're in holding, there's 30 people at each table, sharing from the same coffee jug. There's no way for those to be socially distant.
Yeah, you cannot keep... Yeah. Everyone is definitely in close quarters at that point. Mm-hmm. And so... Yeah, that's going to be tough. And it's just really bad timing right now with the cooler weather and the spikes of cases all over the place. So now that we're talking about it, I'm really not surprised that they're pushing back. I'm oh yeah, that sounds like a nightmare.
Yeah, and there's also the element of it, right, that is we've started to see trailers for we actually have cable. I have never had cable as an adult.
Yeah, neither of us have ever had...
It just came with our apartment, which is weird because we sometimes watch real TV for the first time in our lives as adults since we left home.
It's really strange.
I'm seeing trailers for the upcoming episodes of television that are new, that have been filmed since COVID, and it's very striking to me how far apart everyone is in scenes. Yeah. The Good Doctor, we've been watching a lot of House.
And so we keep getting ads for the Good Doctor.
So we keep seeing ads for the Good Doctor, and there's characters in the show wearing masks, and there's always there's this one shot in the trailer that's very striking to me of people having a conversation through a door, and I'm oh yeah, in COVID times they're literally trying to find ways to film their cast not hanging out, and so there's an episode that from the trailer, it looks like the good doctor goes into quarantine from being exposed to COVID.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's very prescient, you know, very topical. You're talking about what's going on right now. But also, if your character has to be in quarantine, no one else has to be in the room with him while you're filming.
Yeah.
So it's just a weird, like, I think that we're going to start seeing COVID media. Yeah. And I think that when we look back, the things that come out in the next year, maybe even year and a half, I think that, like, CinemaSins or, you know, Film Theory or these companies, when we analyze films from this certain little period of time or television shows, there's gonna be a name for it, and it's gonna be like COVID media or like Corona film or something.
Yeah.
And it's going to be those movies where you can tell that, like, there was socially distant things going on set because people are weirdly apart. Like,
maybe in, like, 50 years in, like, film school, you'll have to, like, watch these movies or shows and be like, which of these were filmed during the, like, COVID media times? You know what I mean?
That's
like,
the test.
Yeah, that's gonna be your test. Well, you know, because, like, honestly, having an eye for that kind of thing is very important to creating film. But it's just interesting to, like, see in the middle of it.
Yeah, 100%.
And I don't know. I'm just so excited for it to be over.
It's also weird to me how not weird it is to see people on television wearing masks.
Yeah.
Like, I'm so used to it now. I'm like, oh yeah, okay, yeah, of course they're wearing masks. They're in a hospital. Everyone should be wearing masks in hospitals. Look, I don't think we're gonna keep masks everywhere indoors once we kind of get past this.
Yeah.
But why were we not wearing masks in hospitals before this? Why didn't everyone who walked into... Why wasn't everyone in the waiting room? None of you know what you have yet.
Yeah.
Why don't you all have masks on?
Because for filming purposes, faces look better.
No, I mean in real life.
Oh.
Why did we go into waiting rooms...
Well,
at the hospital, we went to the hospital, right?
Yeah.
And we were like, hello, I am sick, and I don't know what I have. And they went, okay, go sit next to that person who's also sick and doesn't know what they have. No. That was a thing. And now I'm like, no, never again.
No, in Toronto, at least, if you go to, like, I haven't really been to, like, the hospital waiting room, but, like, you go into the clinic, and they have a list of, they like, do you have any of these symptoms? And if you do, they give you a mask.
I know, but even if you don't have those symptoms, you still don't know what you have.
Yeah.
Like, no one walking into the waiting room already knows what they have. They're going there because they don't yet know. Put a mask on. Why was this ever a thing?
I mean, unless you're there for, like, a sprained ankle or something.
It blows my mind.
Yeah?
Yes, but everyone around you is also sick. No, I'm saying that everyone should have had a mask on.
Right.
Like, I get it. Like, we didn't wear one into American Eagle. Fine. But why did hospital waiting rooms... It's one of those things that I'll never understand now that I've seen it the other way. And I'm like, we can't go back. We can't go back to that.
Yeah. No, you're right. You're right. I don't think that I would go to the doctor anymore without, like, bringing a mask. Because if I have to, sit there and... If I have to sit and wait there beside other people, it's true. You don't know what they have.
Yeah.
And I just...
And we were all okay with that.
I just never thought about it.
I know. I didn't either. And now I'm really... Like, now I thought about it until, like, 4 o'clock in the morning yesterday. Anxiety's fun.
Oh my god, I feel so weird about that now. Like,
right? Did I just blow open a part of your brain that you didn't know? Like, there was a door closed that you didn't know was closed?
Yeah, I'm just gonna, like, shut that back up again.
Oh my god.
I'll deal with that off camera.
Miller says even chefs agree. I wonder if they should wear masks. Dude, it is so hot in those kitchens. They would die.
They would, like, the sweat would
suffocate.
Drip out under their masks and into the food.
I mean, I know they're probably putting up with it right now, but, like, oh my god, yeah.
It's that would be brutal. That would not be fun.
I will say, Torcules brings up cleaning movie theaters in between movies is something that's kind of new. Yeah, we used to literally just pick up popcorn. Yeah. I would love it if we actually cleaned movie theaters.
Yep.
As someone who worked in a movie theater for 3.5 years, the things we did.
Well, and the thing about movie theaters is that they're dark most of the time, that, like, the general public is in there. Mm-hmm. So they could be filthy. And
no, they are.
Well, yeah. They are.
No, I can tell you.
And you can't really tell because it's dark in there and, like... Ugh.
Yeah.
That's why, like...
There's a reason I do not have ice in my drinks at the movies anymore.
Oh.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway.
Wow. this took a weird direction. What else do we got for you guys? We have
Assassin's Creed is getting a television. We have a lot of video game related news today. I love it.
Yeah.
Because this is we game. We are gamers, y'all.
We.
And I know. I talked earlier about how excited I am for Assassin's Creed Valhalla. It's 100% true. I freaking love Valhalla. No, Muddles. The news is we're getting. This is not Valhalla news. This is television news.
Television.
Because we're getting a television show based on the Assassin's Creed franchise on Netflix.
Yeah. Which, wow, they have so much material to work with. I don't know, like, where are they going to start from Assassin's Creed 1? Like,
I think...
Or do you think it'll be completely new? It'll be like the idea of Assassin's Creed, but like all new characters and stories.
See, what I want is for it to be... I want the present timeline to be consistent throughout the seasons, and I want each season to be a different era of history.
Yeah.
So, like, the first season is Ezio Auditore. The second season is whoever the next person was, because I don't remember who's after Ezio. And then, like, the third season is the pirate season, where they go to Black Flag times. And then the fourth season is... I would love to see... And then you anchor the show in your modern day characters. Yeah. Just like the game has, you know, Desmond is the present day main character through the first 4 Assassin's Creeds. And so you have that character be consistent through the present times. Altair was first, then Ezio, then Connor, then Edward. Thank you, Sensui. So you have some consistency in the show, but it lets you every single season be like, all right, this is where we go to ancient Italy, this is where we go to ancient this is where we go to ancient this. Yeah. Because I think like the movie didn't really work, right? There was just, it didn't hit the audience that it wanted to. Gamers weren't happy with it. Non-gamers didn't even really give it a shot. Yeah. And you had Michael Fassbender. Like, it's not like you didn't have talent behind that movie. Just, the interest wasn't really there. Yeah.
I think, though, like, this would be such a fun and versatile idea because you can go so many places with it. You know, like, we can see ancient Italy, Greece, Egypt. We can see like Valhalla, we're getting like Vikings. You know, we can see something new, like maybe like we'll see like early America and like...
Well, Assassin's Creed 3 is the Revolutionary War.
Oh, right. Yes.
Or no, it's the Civil War. No, it's the Revolutionary War. It's the Revolutionary War. I lost my mind there for a second.
But stuff like that, and maybe it'll take us to like less well-known places. You know what I mean? Like smaller countries, smaller areas of the world, and
I don't think it will do that.
No, I mean I would love that because I know it's fictional, but I love seeing the history portion of it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, the thing about Assassin's Creed though, in that sense, is that this franchise has always made its plots about the like epic moments of history and how the assassins were a part of it. Yeah. And so if you were to go into moments that weren't as epic, I don't know that the I don't appeal. Yeah, I don't know. Well, no, and I just don't know that the plot would really function, right? Because you don't really want to watch the assassins just kind of be around when nothing's going on. Right. The fun of Assassin's Creed is like, oh my god, I am going to be an assassin literally working for George Washington during the Revolutionary War. Like, that is a cool... That's a really, like, cool way to live through a moment in history that, like, I know about. Yeah. You know, and, like, Assassin's Creed Odyssey, like, being a part of this, like, this famous Spartan versus Athens war that really took place. Like, there's a historical accuracy to some elements of it. Yeah. Is what makes it really, really... You know, it takes it from being just a game where you're in a place in the past to being like, oh, I feel like I'm a part of history. Yeah. And that's been the strength of the franchise. For sure. So, you know, I think that when you're Ezio, you get to, like, meet Leonardo da Vinci and he, like, makes weapons for you. Right. Because he's, like, this brilliant thinker. And so I want the show to keep... Cool. I want the show to keep having that element of it.
Yeah.
Because I want to... I don't necessarily need it to be all white history, you know what I mean? I think that there's definitely other places in the world to go, but I do want it to be a history that feels like I'm a part of something grander than something totally fictional.
Yep. Yeah, I totally get that.
I want my history adjacent media. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, honestly, like, the pull of it for me is definitely, like, it is fantasy, it is fantastical, but that, like, that history, that grounding in history, in a sense, like, is, I think, super interesting. Because I, like, you know, I can tell myself that, like, that's not really how it went down or whatever, but there's something fun about it being dramatized, even though I know it's dramatized.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
But I still think that, like, they have so much to play with this series. I just really hope they don't fuck it up.
Capitcher says a season with semi-modern history that we haven't seen in game yet would be really awesome as well. It would be interesting to see how the assassins would be a part of something like World War II.
Yeah.
Or,
I don't know, Cold War, even more recently.
Yeah, the Cold War's tough though, right? Anything where the war was global is hard.
Yeah.
It's tough when you can't, like, give it a physical location. World War II, you could make the game like the French countryside between Paris and Germany. You know what I mean? Like, you can make that the location of the game. Although, actually, in a television show, though, you get around that. You could do, because you don't have to give your character a map to play on, a television show could actually handle something like that better than I think a game necessarily could.
Yeah. Because
these games like to have this open world RPG feel, it's hard to bounce around to a bunch of locations.
Totally.
But a TV show could bounce around to wherever they want. That would actually be really interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that they have a lot to work with here. I'm very excited. I'm super, like, I want to know more. I want to know what they think about story. I want to know who's going to be in it. Like, because we don't really have a ton of information other than,
well, I mean, it was just announced yesterday.
Yeah, this is going to happen. And we're like, oh, okay.
I definitely think, like, I think that as far as the idea of it goes, I think that television is a really smart idea for Assassin's Creed. It's actually what I was saying when they announced the movie, where I was like, how do you even begin to start explaining how Assassin's Creed works
in, like, a 2-hour movie?
In a 2-hour movie.
Like there's no way.
There's some concepts, and I think a lot of video game concepts are like this. Like The Witcher. Witcher is hard to do in a movie.
Yeah.
Witcher's a lot to explain.
Yeah, they went for that, series, and it did well. Maybe that's why they're, like, going for Assassin's Creed, is they're like, hey, we made The Witcher work. Although Witcher is books, Assassin's Creed is not.
No. Assassin's Creed started as a video game series. But, I think that this series has the potential to tell the story the way the movie kind of didn't really succeed at.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Just by virtue of you don't have to explain it all in the first 2 hours. Like, you can kind of slow down a little bit. Yeah. And, like,
And you can be selective with your information over, like, the seasons, and, like, that's always fun to play with, or things that the audience knows the character doesn't, or vice versa, and, like, yeah, there's so much more you can do with a show that I think is going to benefit them. Yeah. Because there are some concepts that's like, okay, you can put that in a 2-hour movie. Yeah. And this is so large that, I never saw the movie, but I feel like it probably did not do it justice. Because how could you? Yeah. It's tough. It's a really, honestly, there's a reason Assassin's Creed Odyssey is a 100-hour game. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, you can't get through Assassin's Creed Odyssey in 20 hours. It's not possible. Yeah. Assassin's Creed Canada when I need a plaid assassin's cloak. Oh my Mello, I'm sure if you go to Comic-Con, you'll find something like that. Truly. Oh, God. Sensui is saying the amazing thing to me is how young Assassin's Creed is, yet how big it blew up. I don't know if I agree with that, Sensei. I mean, at this point, it sort of feels like Assassin's Creed is one of those, like, staple video game franchises. Yeah. Because we have, 10 main series titles over 20 years? Like, it really... Assassin's Creed at this point is almost as, like, built into the gaming culture as, like, a Modern Warfare or any of those titles, really. Like... the only things that are older are games like Mario that had, like, Nintendo 64 era, PS1 era games. Right.
I think at this point you kind of have Assassin's Creed is like one of the pillars of the gaming community.
Yeah, it's like I think it's a hugely successful and popular game. Like I know a lot of people who love video games but only have a handful of them and usually have played or own an Assassin's Creed game, like at least one of them. Yeah. You know, like it does seem to kind of be a staple of like your gaming shelf.
Yeah, and you know, it's a franchise that's old enough at this point that I have given it up twice. Not given it up, but like I just like, because like I played the first 3, and then I was like, all right, the Ezio trilogy's done. Maybe I'll check out the next one, and then I just didn't for a long time, and then I played Black Flag, and I got really into it again.
Yeah.
And I kind of like backed away from it. And then, you know, I jumped into Odyssey and I jumped right back into this franchise. And now Valhalla is like, oh, thank you so much for subscribing, Wargamester. Yes, we appreciate that. I'm so pale.
Good morning.
I'm so pale. So yeah, I don't know. I think Assassin's Creed has kind of cemented itself in like the culture of video gaming.
Yeah.
Especially in like the clothing of video gaming. I think that like the Assassin's Creed clothes.
Yeah, that look. Yeah, that's a big part of like kind of just like nerd culture. Like that look, that design. And you know, maybe Assassin's Creed was inspired by something else. I'm not 100% sure on that, but
they've really made that look theirs.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. And Shin was saying that's what he means compared to their franchises that have been 20 or 30 years, yet Assassin's Creed rivals them all. Like they're you know,
as far as sales goes, it certainly does. And I think Valhalla is going to continue that track record.
Yeah, the hype for Valhalla is up there. Like I definitely noticed like people talk about it, you know, and when the trailer drops, it's exciting, you know, like it's definitely a big part of the gaming community right now.
Well, especially your world, because I talk about it so much that like you're very aware of it.
Truly. David is very excited.
Wargamester played Assassin's Creed in 2007 on PS3. Is that when it came out? Is that the release year of the first Assassin's Creed? Have we had like 10 games in 13 years? That's wild. They put out a lot of Assassin's Creed games.
Yeah.
And they're hit or miss. Honestly, like there are some that aren't great.
Yeah.
And there are some that are truly amazing.
Yeah. I think though that with like a long franchise like that, you know, you can really learn from your mistakes. And you know, like I think Valhalla's going to be great. I think Odyssey was pretty great. I didn't play it. I watched David play it though, and it looked really incredible. You know, and I think that's all you can ask. Sometimes you gotta fuck up so that you can make something better.
Sensui is saying Assassin's Creed at first started as a sequel to Prince of Persia: The Two Thrones, but somewhere during development they switched gears and it became the first Assassin's Creed game. And what's really interesting about that, Sensui, is that when was the last Prince of Persia movie? Or Prince of Persia game. There was one Prince of Persia movie, Jake Gyllenhaal. That's a real interesting shift of like we started this as a sequel for this other franchise and then we became an infinitely more popular franchise.
Yeah.
Like Assassin's Creed is a just based on sales alone, infinitely more popular than Prince of Persia ever was or ever will be.
Yeah.
I don't think Prince of Persia is going to make some huge comeback and dethrone Assassin's Creed.
Yeah.
And, we're hearing in the chat, y'all, if you're interested in the Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity game, if you're looking for a demo to play, the demo is live now on the Nintendo eShop.
Wow.
So I might be playing that while Clara streams later today.
That's definitely happening.
So I can talk about it on the show tomorrow. It's for work. It's for work. I play video games for work. You know what I
mean? Technically, yes.
What's up, Rich Alpha Gaming? Welcome in. I do want to bring up, there have been some reports about the No Time to Die, the new Bond movie. Mm-hmm. It looks like at one point they were talking about taking it to streaming during these COVID times, but they were asking, and this is insane to me, Sorry, my throat is dying. At one point, they were asking between... I've seen different figures, but they were asking between $600 and $800 million for exclusive streaming rights to the new Bond movie.
Wait, so like Netflix would have to pay...
Netflix would have to pay $600 to $800 million to have the new Bond movie.
Yeah, no.
So and here's where that number comes from, right? Their idea is that Bond movies typically make $800 million at the box office, a lot of which they give up to their distributors. You know, they don't keep all that money. Mm-hmm. So they're trying to say this is what usually would happen with this movie. It costs us $200 whatever million to make. They've already sunk their marketing budget into it many times. They've already spent $150 million globally on marketing, probably. Maybe a little bit less because they haven't done like a press tour or anything like that. But I'm willing to bet they've spent at least $90 million on marketing so far.
Yeah.
So they run into the thing where they're like, well, we've sunk almost $400 million into this movie.
Yeah.
And we have to profit off of it. We can't just sell it to you for what it cost us. Yeah. So in theaters, we assume we would have made about this much because it's about what we made on the last movie. So if you want to be and this was an exclusive agreement for 1 year. For its first year, you get exclusive streaming of the movie. We won't put out a DVD. We won't put out a Blu-ray for a year. It will only stream on your platform for $600 to $800. I think they started at $800 million and worked their way down to $600. I am sorry, but what?
What? No.
It's just
no, thank you.
It's just a no. It's one of the like most insane numbers I've ever heard because like the streaming service gets almost nothing out of that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
like,
people are already paying for Netflix if they put it on Netflix. How many more people are going to sign up just to see this movie? No, they're not.
Yeah, so Miller's saying they would have to pull in all new subscribers. For the streaming service, essentially what he means is for the streaming service to make that money, the No Time to Die movie release would have to bring, on its own, would have to be enough of a perk to bring in enough subscribers that their subscriber costs would cover the cost of the movie, right? Yeah. That's like... It's what, like, HBO Max is like $15. So if it went to HBO Max, it's a little bit less. But, like, if Disney Plus wanted to do that, for Disney Plus, it would be, what, $6.99? You would need almost 100 million people to subscribe to Disney Plus. Yeah. For that movie.
Just no.
There's no world in which that works.
I mean, you could do what they did with Mulan, and you pay additionally for it, but even still, like, they would have to have so many people watch this movie. Like, no.
Dio like Steamrollers in the chat says Disney has FU money, and you're not wrong, Dio. Yeah. They just don't have FU money right now. Well, they don't. I mean, look at the news.
They're not making it right now. They probably still have.
But, you know, Disney...
They're okay.
Disney is very aware of their financial situation right now. Yeah. They laid off almost their entire equity theatrical cast yesterday. Yeah. And it's really tragic. Like, the Hoop-De-Doo Musical Review, which is a ridiculous name, I know. But
it's very fun.
It's very fun, and it's the longest-running dinner theater in the country. Yeah. The Hoop-De-Doo Musical Review has been running for, like, 40 years. Yeah. And they fired their cast yesterday. The Finding Nemo musical in Disney World fired their cast yesterday. Like, as far as I know, every single equity cast has been laid off. Yeah. And so I just don't... They have FU money, but they don't have $600 million to waste.
Yeah, and you know what, like... judging from what I've seen from the new Bond trailers, I wasn't super hyped for it anyways.
I am.
Okay, I was kind of like.
I think it's gonna be great. I'm very hyped for it.
Know.
I don't think Disney Plus is the right place for it.
No, that's the thing. Disney Plus is not the right platform for a James Bond movie.
If it was gonna,
Miller says Netflix has never done that before though. People would be upset.
Netflix has never done what?
Like you pay for the specific movie.
Oh, they've never done. Oh, additional pay. Yeah. They've bought movies and premiered them on their service a lot. They've just never done it that way.
Yeah.
The real interesting thing here is that it's the first time we've seen these kind of numbers come out about a movie this size in relation to streaming, right? Like when you think about Mulan, the $30 price tag, we didn't really have a conversation about how much money Mulan had to make for it to make money on Disney Plus.
Right.
We never had that conversation. We always talked about it on the consumer end.
Yeah.
And so when you're looking at the other end, I would say Mulan is a similarly priced film to the new James Bond.
Yeah.
And so you end up in this situation where for Mulan probably had to make a similar amount of money, $600-ish million, to see the kind of profit that Disney would be happy with. Because I'm willing to bet Mulan would have made $900 million in theaters. I think pretty handily. I think it would have made that kind of money, just because based on the trajectory of these live action remakes. Based on reviews, I don't think it would have done as well as Lion King or one of the higher tier ones. Beauty and the Beast obviously made all the money in the world.
Lion King was terrible.
But I think it would have been a middle tier one as far as box office returns globally.
Yeah.
Although it didn't do well in China, so who knows. But when you look at the Disney Plus numbers, it really puts into perspective that like they needed to make $600 million. And so when you need to make $600 million, asking people for $30 to watch it, not per person, per account, it doesn't seem as crazy anymore.
Yeah. Because
you're like, oh yeah, like you have to make so much money for these movies to work.
Yeah.
And it's why
it's true.
Their margins are razor thin. Like there are movies that come out that have to make $600 million to not lose money.
Yeah, which is wild.
And that's insane.
Yeah, and those are numbers that are just very hard for me to conceptualize. Like that much money. Like how much is that worth? Like that. Like I don't have anything to compare that against. And so when you throw these huge numbers out, I'm like, holy cow! But that's what these companies work with.
Well, and the other problem with these streaming sites right now is that unless you're Netflix, you can't make the kind of money that you need. Like, so say HBO Max were to have bought this Bond movie, right? And they were like, HBO Max is the only place you can watch Bond for the first year. No Time to Die. Only No Time to Die. You run into this really weird issue where HBO Max, we're in Canada. We are an hour-and-a-half drive from the border. We can't get HBO Max where we are.
Yep.
We cannot watch any HBO Max production.
Yeah.
Because HBO Max only exists in the United States because of rights issues that they're working out, and they're hoping to expand it in summer of 2021.
Yeah.
So if they were to take that $600 million deal and they were to put a Bond on their platform, they run into this issue where they cannot pick up a global audience from it.
Yeah.
I think that picking up a Bond movie, if they would take that deal if they could launch it day one with their UK service. I think if they were launching HBO Max in the UK tomorrow, they would go, HBO Max is coming to the UK tomorrow, and it's the only place where you can watch James Bond. They would get every single household in the UK. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But because they're not a global streaming service, because they're a single country streaming service, and yes, it is the biggest country for these companies. It's the largest market for these companies because you can't get into China. It's for any of these streaming services that are locked to the United States right now, it is not a viable financial decision to bring in something this large.
Yeah.
Especially when you're already sinking so much money into the Snyder television series, Justice League. I refuse to call it the Snyder Cut. I will never again call it the Snyder Cut. It is the Snyder Show.
Yeah.
And
yeah, it is no longer the Snyder Cut. It is now a brand new thing that they're making.
But that cost them $40 million.
Yeah.
Whereas this, like, $600 million is insane. And so I don't think that there's a way for these streaming services until they expand globally to compete with, like, a Netflix can sink $200 million into a movie because they have 1 billion subscribers globally, and the movie's going to get watched in 47 countries.
Yeah.
HBO Max has the United States, and that is it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and I'm sure that they are working their butts off to try to expand because that's the only way they're going to be able to keep competing. But
Hero of Wind in our chat brought up the Demon Slayer movie that's playing in Japan right now, and I do quickly want to talk about that. We only have a few minutes left here. We actually have 37 seconds left, but I want to bring that up because it is actually a really cool story. There's this animated movie that came out in Japan recently.
Yeah.
I think last weekend or the weekend before, and it is, despite being in COVID times, and this is a positive story. We're moving forward in the world, right? Because despite being in COVID times, this Demon Slayer movie is the #1 opening weekend in Japan of all time.
Like money-wise?
Yeah, it's Japan's, and it's of any movie, Western, any Marvel movie, Demon Slayer is the #1 opening weekend for any movie released in Japanese cinemas.
Wow.
Yeah, because they've got their numbers under control. The movie theaters are open, and it's really cool to see a movie be able to make a record in 2020.
Yeah, and not like a bullshit one.
No, a real record.
They were the only movie.
It opened bigger than any movie pre-pandemic.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Maybe people are just like itching for some new stuff. They want to get out and like, I don't know. That's great news.
Yeah, it is.
That makes me happy.
It's really nice to see a country that has its situation under control.
Mm-hmm.
Put out a movie, and it's awesome to see it succeed. I'm really excited to see things do well right now.
Yeah, we need more of doing well.
The Chinese box office is crushing it. I think 3 of the top 10 movies globally right now are Chinese releases, and it's all money made solely in China. So,
nice.
The Chinese movie theaters are open to 75% capacity right now. And so even
75, okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Even as we talk about the struggles in making Western movies, it is nice to see that across the seas, things are starting to turn.
People are getting their shit together.
But here's the thing: if you get your cases under control and you take care of the situation, the Japanese culture, movie culture, and the Chinese movie culture are showing us that there is a way for us to start to get back to normal.
Yeah.
And I think it's positive just to have that the vision of a way forward.
Yeah, it's not that doom and gloom of like, our movie theater is going to exist. Who knows? This is a good sign.
It is a good sign, and honestly, I'm really happy to see it.
Yeah.
And I want to see this Demon Slayer movie now.
I know. I gotta know what the hype is about.
Yeah, I hopefully it'll come to Canada soon. Apparently there's an anime, according to our chat, that it's the continuation of, and the anime is very good. So we might have to check that out.
Yeah.
Y'all, start plugging. It's the end of the show. Start plugging.
Yeah.
Plug things.
This is our wrap up for the show. Thank you guys for being here. I mean, you guys already know, most of you, we do this Monday to Friday, 10 a.m. Eastern. This is made possible by our patrons. So first of all, thank you to all of you who are our patrons. It means the world to us. If you're not a patron and you want to help support in that way, it starts as low as $1 a month, all the way up to, there's different tiers which get you different things, such as patron-only Discord, movie night watch-along, cosplay material, early access, those kind of things. So please feel free to check that out. Thank you, Daygon, for putting that link in the chat. Today's episode, if you joined late, you missed it, you can see it later on our YouTube or download it as a podcast. Pretty much wherever
podcasts are downloaded.
Yeah.
We also are going to be streaming today, both of us. You're streaming at 1?
Yeah, I may start a little bit early because I have a hard out. Because I'm playing D&D tonight with the lovely Cappy Archer. And Matt, actually. But we are also playing D&D on stream on Friday. That's over at twitch.tv/theplaymat. So we are very excited for that. Come hang out with us, play D&D with Justin, Matt,
Cappy Archer and the playmat in the chat right there. And Fantaxia will be our daughter. I'm so excited.
It's gonna be something.
I will also be streaming tonight. So if you want to come by, I'm going to be playing Alien Isolation starting at 6 p.m. tonight. And yeah, we are going to... we're going to be continuing to play through that game. I'm hoping to beat the whole game this week. So come watch me freak out when the alien murders me 97,000 times.
There were some great moments from you playing the first part of the game. So
I'm a jumpy girl.
Me too.
You can follow us across the internet. The link was there. tr.ee/nerdynightly has all of our links. So you have access to everything. And yeah, thank you so much for being here this morning. We love doing this. We're so happy to be doing this with y'all.
Yeah.
And we're just excited to see you tomorrow, 10 a.m. Eastern, here on the Nerdy Nightly for another episode.
Yep. David is very close to hitting his sub goal.
I am, yeah.
So if he gets a few more subscriptions, he will have to play some horror VR on Saturday.
I will, yeah.
I have to play 30 minutes of horror VR on Saturday on twitch.tv/Clarstakaris. I've decided I'm going to be playing Phasmophobia. This might be a terrible decision, but we already have the game, and...
It's really fun. I love Phasmophobia.
I'm not excited.
Well, and if I hit my sub goal, you might end up actually having to do an hour.
Why?
Because you said you're going to do a half hour on each channel.
That's true. If David hits his sub goal, I'm doing half hour on my channel and half an hour on the Nerdy Nightly channel.
I'm so excited. Halloween's going to be a blast, y'all. There's a lot going on Twitch on Halloween, so enjoy it. It's going to be a big day because we can't go outside and do normal Halloween stuff, so let's hang out with our friends online.
Yeah.
Which is what we do every day.
Yeah, pretty much. I love it.
All right, folks. As we always say here, do something nerdy tonight.
Bye-bye.